your body's not against you. Maybe the pain you're feeling is your body trying to tell you something. You know, your body's symptoms are not purely physical. They always have an emotional and energetic component as well. If you'd like to learn how to assist your body's natural healing process by clearing blocked energies and understanding your body's messages, I invite you to enroll in my step-by-step course, Talk to Your Cells, because you are so much more powerful than you know.
Hi, I'm Noemi Beres. I create calm spaces for reflection and quiet support. Are you always on, talking, performing nonstop? What if you could just breathe? What if you could just pause? Silent thinking sessions are quiet spaces. No pressure, no small talk, no judgment. Just you, your thoughts, and a moment to breathe, held by a quiet space holder with calm, supportive energy. So you can feel safe to simply be. Because sometimes silence says the most. Join the waitlist at noemiberes.com.
Well, welcome everybody to another Mindful Monday. We are all on a journey, as the thing says, and sometimes it is a Monday, isn't it? It is definitely a Monday. Take time. Anyway, we're all on a journey, and sometimes those challenges, we all have challenges, but the thing is you do not have to face them alone. So we are so glad that you're here because we really believe that together we can do more to support, and we are here to support you holistically and without judgment. So thank you for joining us today. And of course, thanks to my sponsors. Now, life always seems to be rather chaotic and hectic. So everything going on today, how do we cultivate stillness in chaos? My guest is here with us today to answer that question. Noemi Beres is coming to us from beautiful Cyprus. She is the co-owner of Podcast Connections, and she not only thrives in empowering entrepreneurs to shine, but she is also a passionate mixed media artist, which we discussed the last time Noemi was with us. She does some really beautiful things. But today she is here with us to share with us her newest venture, Silent Thinking Sessions, and how we can find calm, peace, and happiness in all that chaos. So, Noemi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me again, Laura. It's an absolute honor to be here and to talk with you.
As I say, yeah, even Mondays.
Even Monday.
Mindful Mondays, manic Mondays. Yeah, I was like, okay, sometimes it's tough getting that started. So tell me, what inspired you to create this new venture of silent thinking?
Yes, that's a great question, and it's basically kind of part of my story. In 2019, I lost my dad to cancer, and then I lost my grandma to an accident. And so it was a very tragical year in my life. Then pandemic happened in 2020, early 2020, lost my business. So it was a lot going on during those 2 years. And I had to start a new business from scratch. That was Podcast Connections. And it was a lot of pressure on me to be a mother, to start a business from scratch, to have clients on board from the US. I mean, we are in Europe, so it was a whole new venture for us. We never worked with American clients before. So it was a lot of pressure on me. And what I felt that I never had peace. I was constantly just go, 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 go. And meeting after meeting, no time to relax, and not even time to think. And that was my biggest problem. And this was going on with me for almost 5 years, like from 2020 to 2025, when I had a kind of a breakthrough when I visited the US the first time. And it was a hiking trip that I went to North Carolina with friends. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me. that was kind of my first holiday after 5 years, after just like nonstop working, nonstop doing things, and be present for everyone and not really looking after myself. And while hiking, I realized that silence can be so healing, and just one step after the other step while you do that, it was so uplifting. And I realized that like silence has a power. So, and started to think about things during these hikes that I never did before. They really brought up all kind of memories and things in my head. And when I got home from the US, I sat down and I started to think in silence. And I realized that if I'm having this problem in my life, I'm not the only one. There's so many people we have trouble with thinking, like scheduling time to think. We never do that, or do we? Like we never, like we schedule Zoom calls, we schedule podcast interviews, we schedule, you know, uh, coffee meetups or whatever, but we never schedule a time to think. And that's brought me the idea, okay, so let's do something in this space. And that's how I basically started the silent thinking sessions for people with all kind of thoughts on their minds.
I was going to say, yeah, there's different kinds of thinking, because if you're an overthinker like me, sometimes it doesn't shut off and things keep going, which is
Yeah.
still not always on the healthy side. But no, I do remember seeing those pictures that you had in North Carolina. That was just, beautiful. And you're right. You're not the only one. I know myself, other people. I am always all about mindfulness and self-care, but sometimes life starts throwing things at you left and right. And next thing you know, you can feel yourself starting to get caught up, like in whatever want to call it, the rat race, hamster wheel, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
like get going. And then it's like, yeah, okay, no, now we need to make this stop again. So yeah, no, that's a beautiful reflection. And then, yeah, everybody I think has it everywhere. So why do you think it's so hard for people to find quiet time today?
Because there's too much distraction. Like distraction is everywhere, especially since we have social media present. It really distracts our life. And I'm not against it. I use it. Like I'm really big on LinkedIn. I love it. And I was working in social media marketing from 2007, so it's kind of part of my life. But I can see the advantages and the disadvantages of the social media, all that destruction, all that noise that's creating, all the doom scrolling on social media. There's a lot of noise, and we don't need that all. And I remembered, while growing up in the 80s, early 90s, that it was kind of calmer. Like even as for a child, that I can see my son who's 13, and he's always bombarded with social media and everything. I mean, thankfully he's not on TikTok and on other social media platforms, but still he has a lot of influence from social media. So it's like we are always on, we are constantly on, we never rest, like our mind never rests. So that's why I came up with the idea, and which is not meditation, not therapy, and not coaching. It's something else, something different.
You need to create your own name for it. But I am an 80s child. So you brought up 80s, and that's a good point, because kids today, or anyone today, I don't think knows how to function without that. We didn't have cell
No.
phones in the 80s. We played outside. We didn't spend time, inside or on everything. We normally were out playing. And if you had a dinner, if you didn't know, people are normally just yelled for your name down the street or whatever, or you picked up a regular old dial phone to call whoever's
Yes,
house you're at
yes.
to say, hey, you need to come home. And you're right, there are pros and cons to everything, because in one hand, it makes our life so much easier. But on the other hand, we seem to have gotten so attached, almost like an umbilical cord, like, oh my God, how
Yeah,
do I live if I don't have this attached to me?
yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. I for one, work hard. I'm the same as you. So, like, when I do go somewhere, I'm very limited. You won't hardly see me on things, like, because for me, family comes first. Or if I'm on vacation, then yeah, I'm on vacation. I might share pictures, but I'm not setting up meetings. I block my calendar.
Yeah, and that's
I
a
block my
great thing.
calendar
Yeah,
out. I'm like, yeah, yeah. But you still see other people, even during dinner or whatever. They just like have to have a phone. It's like, what happened to conversations
yes,
and
I know,
spending
I
time
know.
with people? Yeah. So how is the intentional thinking different from like zoning out or meditating? Because like you said, this is not meditation. That's not this. So what is the difference?
The biggest difference is that you don't have to clear your mind. Because I know that a lot of people out there, they struggle to do meditation because meditation is not easy. It takes practice, it takes years to implement meditation in your life. You might start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. But as we say, our monkey brain is constantly working. So it's really hard to stop that. And I realized that myself when I'm doing meditation, that I can go like miles away, like sitting there for 10, 20 minutes. And it's like, what am I doing again? I'm not even like, present in my meditation. So it takes practice. But what I was thinking with the silent thinking session is to let your thoughts come to surface and don't push them away. Like try to live with them, let them into the flow, because it's also important to have those thoughts ready. Like what I do with my clients, that I ask them to pick one or two specific topics that you want to think about during our session. And you can use pen and paper. You can jot down things that comes to your mind. And I think it's really important to not push everything away from your thoughts, but let them flow, let them into your mind. And that's why it's different than, for example, than meditation.
Yeah. And everybody, I think, defines how. So let me ask you how you would define meditation, because I've heard a number of things. Because some people feel like, oh, no, you have to clear everything. And then I've heard other people say, hey, when you're taking those walks out in nature and you're, not really thinking about anything else, but you're seeing what you didn't see before and appreciating things around you, that is also a form of meditation. How do you define meditation?
Yes, I mean there are so many different types of meditation. I'm a walker. So when I'm outside in nature, I do like kind of walking meditation. So you don't have to sit there and like for 20 minutes. And but I'm also an artist. We talked about that in previous podcast episode. And so for me, like making my mixed media collages is a form of meditation. Or you do like coloring, that's also a form of meditation. Like you get into this different state of mind, your body calms down, your blood pressure goes down, your pulse goes down, everything goes down, and it's a form of meditation. Like even cooking can be a form of meditation because you're not focusing on anything else, you're zoning out or listening to an audiobook. Or there are so many types of meditation that we can imagine, but I meant like the traditional type of meditation when you really have to sit still for at least 10, 20 minutes and just clear your mind. And that's what I'm also like been doing like for years, like every morning.
Yeah, I actually met with someone the other day that was kind of frustrated because whoever they were talking to said basically you have to do this, sit down and go. And she's like, she's like, that doesn't work for her. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work for me too. If I listen to somebody guided and talking,
Mhm.
then I can do that. But
Yeah.
again, if I have things that are bothering me, my monkey brain will still come in and
Yeah.
interrupt that.
I know the feeling. And I think guided meditations are really powerful, like in that way, in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because I told her, I said, when I'm listening to that, if I can listen to it and listen to the person, I can feel in my body part, whatever part they're mentioning about, I can feel
Yeah.
that. But if I've got something that's maybe stressing me out or that I'm trying to bury, but it's still there and it pops up, it totally breaks that connection, whether
Yeah.
it's guided or not. Yeah. So, I know you talked a little bit about your hiking, but is there a moment when silence helped you reconnect with yourself?
It really did. For me, and I think we mentioned that like during the hiking, I mean, that was like a pivot in my life that I realized that I don't have to be on. Don't have to talk to everyone because plus when you hike, I mean, you don't have really the breath to talk all the time. So it quiets you down. Like physically, you can't really talk if it's a harder hike. But definitely that was the first time when I did like some serious hike, and it really affected me. And just going back to into myself and just hearing my thoughts and being okay with my thoughts and accepting them. They coming to me and let them flow. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Is there a process that you go through or that you found? I mean, like you, so I mean, when those thoughts come up, like you said, you don't shove them back down. How do you handle them? I know everybody has different things, especially if it's something that's not really a thought that you want to have.
I sit with them. So I think it's also important. That's why I created this space, because when you're alone with your thoughts, it's so much harder. And I think to have someone present with you who have kind of an uplifting, high vibrational energy with you, a positive presence, I think that's really important. And not to be alone with those thoughts. And I think that's really important, especially like I know people, friends and also relatives, they struggle with PTSD, with trauma, anxiety, or grief even. It's not the healthiest option to leave them alone with their thoughts all the time. So even if you don't talk to them, there's always like a presence, which
Hmm.
is so important when you are with them, and so they feel less lonely. But you're not trying to fix them, you're not judging them, but you're just present, like a quiet space holder for them.
Yeah. And I think that's huge. As a matter of fact, I had just, visited my family member back in Colorado, and it wasn't to judge. It was just to be there to help them,
Yeah.
and we didn't have to talk all the time. But sometimes we would do stuff together. At times we would just sit outside. But you just knew it was kind of like you just knew somebody was there. It wasn't that you had to be constantly talking. I think a lot of people are very awkward and feel weird about silence, and I'm not sure why that is, but it's for some reason we feel like we have to fill that silence all the time. What's
Yeah.
your take on that?
You're absolutely right, Laura. Yes, it's always like fill the gap, fill with something, like say something. What we don't need to. I know it's awkward sometimes to sit in silence, or even there's like you have maybe a networking session with a few people, and when they ask the question, so who will go first, and nobody says a word, and so everybody starts to feel a bit jittery and awkward, because we are not used to silence, because there's so much noise in the life. We always have to fill it in. So we have to kind of relearn this, like being peace with ourselves, with our thoughts, and with the silence. And I remember that, like my grandpa and my grandma in Hungary, and we didn't always talk to each other, but they were always present in my life, and they taught me a lot of things, and tales told me tales and everything, but it wasn't like constant, like back and forth talking. Like I think somehow they taught us how to be present even in our silence.
Yeah. So what are some of the insights that you have that come in silence that we miss in the daily noise?
I think it was one fun moment when one of my clients told me after the session that we had together that it was like floating in the ocean, and all these ideas and all these great things came to her, and kind of just downloading things from somewhere. So it was really powerful, because there was just nothing else, just silence and your thoughts, and some kind of positive energy surrounded you.
Nice. That yeah, okay. I can see that too, because I mean some for me, like when I'm doing long road trips,
Hmm.
yes, I have music and stuff playing, but that's where I wind up getting most of my ideas, especially if it's just me and puppy in the car and there's no one else to talk to. The brain starts going, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, I should do this.
I
And
know
you get this idea, and sometimes it can be from inspired from songs because music just helps keep me motivated while I'm driving. But other than that,
it's so fascinating. And I was on a podcast, I think like a month ago, and we were talking with the host, and she told me that like the best ideas come during like a shower or when you are in a bath. And that's so true. Like whenever you are, for example, in a bathroom, in a restroom, that it's something just comes to you. It's really interesting. Like maybe it connects to the water, or just. And we also talked about maybe just being alone somewhere apart from, away from your family, away from puppies or away from cats and everything. So it's maybe that's the space that like you can be alone somewhere at your home, in your own
yeah.
home.
I've had another guest on before that she does work with water and talks about water connection,
Yeah.
and yes, the shower meditations and stuff. That's so there we are connected with water. So people may not
Yes.
realize that, but that's probably another reason why either in the shower, baths, pools, floating in the ocean, whatever, people will get
Yeah.
different ideas as well. But yeah. But so why isn't talking always enough to truly to feel truly seen?
It's I can bring up an example. For example, when people suffer from PTSD and depression, and they work with therapists, and most of the therapy consists of talk therapy, which is, I know, and it's really important. And I was talking to therapists, and they also told me that yes, it helps them, but not always, because sharing your story over and over again and going back to all these traumas, and it can actually talking make things worse and the pain worse. So sometimes what they need is just calm, silent presence. Can feel so much safer for them than talking over and over about their issues and their problems. So I think that's a big thing when it comes to dealing with these kind of mental health troubles and problems.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned that because recently I was with another couple ladies that do all this kind of stuff. And for me, I used to always tell people, repeating things or getting through is how I vent, is how I got it out of my system.
Yeah.
But really, I wasn't. And what they said made perfect sense. Every time you discuss it and you go over, it's like you're
Yeah.
reliving it, you're bringing it up. So, how is it? Yes, you have to get it out and release it. But when you keep discussing it and it keeps bringing up all those feelings,
Yeah.
how is that really therapy? Or helping you when you're just making yourself relive it and get all upset all over again.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, in obviously it works. Therapy works. I'm not saying that. I'm not against therapist or the
No.
whole treatment, but in not every cases. And yeah,
Yeah. And even like when I lost my husband, I had went through, they sent me, to have someone to talk to, which
yeah,
for one, it was great because I had someone to talk to that didn't think they knew me or thought they knew what I felt or was going through. And it was great. I had like 6 sessions. I only went 5 times because the last couple of times he kept wanting me to write a letter to my husband telling him goodbye. And I am like, not
hmm
doing that. So it's like, I'm done. I will figure it out myself. But I was like, I'm done. That's not, it wasn't his his way of fixing things was not what was going to work for me.
yeah. We have
So
all like different approaches with different type of people. So I think we just need to align with those and not like one size fits all. We have all different
yeah, yeah.
solutions.
That's where I love the no judgment, the judgment free, and people being open because yeah, we're all human. We're all able to,
Yeah.
we're all able to perceive things differently, and we have that right. So, but how does silent thinking sessions bring the clarity and calm if they're not therapy?
Because it's basically about silence. So because we have to really appreciate silence in our life, and you don't necessarily need therapy, we don't necessarily need coaching all the time, and plus they can exist parallel. I'm not saying that you can still have therapy, you can still have a coach, you can still work on those things, but you can also schedule time just to think, and on your calendar. And you don't necessarily need me. Obviously, that's a good thing if we can work together. But you don't necessarily need me. You can also create. And I want to teach people how to do that when there's no one else or around them. I mean, if you sit down with just a cup of tea, and outside, on your balcony, or if you just listen to some kind of soothing music in the background, and just like very low music. I'm not saying like
Yeah.
from the loudspeakers, because that's not about silence. And also just 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 kind of relax and take some time off from social media, from everything, and just kind of enjoy that kind of silence when you walk outside in nature, when you walk on a beach, when you have a cup of tea and just enjoying silence, or when you, for example, eat or you're alone and you just enjoy the, like, maybe the taste and the silence. And these are the moments that we can totally create for ourselves, and you don't necessarily need anyone. And we can schedule these moments onto a calendar. That's like, okay, I'm sitting down now for 10 minutes and I'm going to just breathe, enjoy the fresh air, and let all those thoughts come to me.
Yeah. What are some of the changes you've noticed in yourself or have you realized after doing those?
The thing is that I'm also, yes, I'm guilty as charged. I'm an overthinker. And as like everybody else, like we have like 60 to 80,000 thoughts every day, which can be really overwhelming. So for me, it's like I struggle with just one or two thoughts. So I can just run around in my head and touch different, topics that I'm thinking about. But it would be good and to learn just to specifically just focus on one or two thoughts that we want to be clear about, and not just like kind of like racing minds and racing thoughts all the time, because that doesn't help. So we have to be very conscious about, like, even about thinking, like, try to pick one or two things that are really important right now in your life, and you have to make a decision about something. And don't let your mind overrule you, because our mind can be like a dangerous thing if with all those 60, 80,000 thoughts daily. It's a lot. So try to be conscious and try to pick something that you are completely focused right now.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of what, like, say yourself, if you had something that was just like really bothering you and this was a thought, what is your process of, or how's that? I mean, I imagine you're having a conversation kind of with yourself to process it, and how does that work?
For me, it really helps to quiet my mind down, and like I'm doing kind of a little breathing exercise before I start. I think it really helps. Like, count like 3, 4, keep it in, and like, 6, 7, and you let out your breath, and you like kind of repeat that 3 times. So I think like kind of the breathing exercise before just helps to quiet yourself down. And after that, when I'm doing, for example, let's say a quiet session with someone, like, or with myself, I rarely do that just with myself. I help people to do that.
Mhm.
I ask them to have just a piece of paper and pen with them, and jot down everything, write down everything that comes to their mind, because it really helps them to go through whatever they were thinking during that session. Or even you can do that at home, at, all by yourself. And I think it's really important, because then you can look back, what were those ideas and anything that basically come to your mind during that session. And you don't have to share that with anyone, and this is just for you. Even if you are with a session, like during a silent session with me, I always invite people, you can share if you want, but you can just keep it to yourself and make those notes. I think the notes are really important, because they really help to figure out what's going on deep down inside you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard writing it down, basically so you can look for one, help get it out. And I don't know about you, but normally if I'm writing something, I'm more likely to remember,
Yeah.
something when I'm remembering. But this is, we're talking about kind of getting through something and getting rid of it. So I've also heard about writing it down and then like lighting it on fire, or, after you've gotten it out, you burn it.
Yes.
I mean, is there something else that you do that to just kind of,
No, we don't burn anything. No, no,
well,
it's not the same part. No, I know about that. Yeah, you want to release something,
Mhm.
and you write down things like, for example, a relationship, or something that's not working in your life. You write it down, and maybe I heard about that. You can write it on a stone and you throw it into the sea or a lake, or wherever you live, into water, or you can burn it, you can rip it up, and things that you want to release. I heard about those. But for me, it's like, because it's part of like a thinking session, so
Mhm.
you can definitely keep those. So yeah, it's a bit different than that. Yeah.
Do you ever go back at it, go back and look at it again, or it's
Yes.
just, yeah.
No, no, no. I would definitely go back, and I also tell my clients to yes, like, go back definitely, especially if you are dwelling on something and there's something great ideas came to your mind and they are important. You can keep a journal, like it can be your like kind of silent thinking journal that you can keep with you, and whenever you have these silent moments, you can just journal and keep the journal, and you can always go back. And I think it's important to have those, basically, to remember them.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you did mention PTSD, and I do know a number of people that are PTSD, and I know more than just veterans have PTSD. So, how can silence support someone that's living with that? Because to me, a lot of times, that from what I understand from the people that I know, it's nothing but constant noise
It is. Yeah, it
in
is
their head.
constant noise. Yeah. And that's why when, people try to fix them and people try to give them advice, it will never work, because of that constant voice in their head. So basically they need a quiet space to kind of find themselves, but without the judgment, without giving them advice, without intruding into their thoughts. So They need to be feel seen, they need to be feel accepted, but they don't need any advice from you. You don't need to jump in and fix them, because that's the problem nowadays in our society is let's fix it, let's help them. They don't necessarily need your help. They just want to be feel seen, heard by you, but you don't need to be the savior. So
Yeah. I, I have to laugh because that's just kind of the person that I've always been is, if you, when you learn something, something, you just want to help people.
yeah,
And when you try and go around fixing them, and I've learned that it's like, okay, yeah, that's not the right thing to do. Because whether you have PTSD or not, nobody necessarily wants to be fixed. They may want to find stuff themselves, but so is that kind of pretty much what your silent thinking is
it's
all
basically, it
about?
is, yeah, and without giving the unsolicited advice, because even if you do it with good intention, and I did that plenty of times with friends, and oh, why don't you just do this, or why don't you just do that, and this unsolicited advice never really works. I mean, yeah, even if you are the the most angelic person on the planet, they won't accept it from you. They just don't like it. And that's why no intrusion, no judgment, just be there for them, but don't fix them.
Nice. Yeah. So, and that's a good point. That's why I always tell people it's like, I know a lot of things. I'm happy to help people, but they have to want help and they would have to ask. I don't.
Exactly. And they need to reach that space when they ask for help, because like you can pressure them to to accept your help, but if you're not that in not that space yet, you can't help them. You need to get them to that space by themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, was there a moment in your life where you realized that that was kind of a space that you needed?
Like, you mean like the silent thinking sessions
Hmm.
in my life?
Hmm.
For me, absolutely. When I was struggling with grief back in 2020 during the pandemic, whenever, during lockdown, it was kind of a horrible time. Everybody was going on everybody's nerves in the family, and you just needed space to be alone and space to think. And for me, like collage making, that was one kind of space and a form of meditation for me, and it really helped with my silent thinking. I didn't know about back then, obviously, that I'm going to come up with this idea like 6 years later or 5 years later, but it was really powerful, and I realized like silence has so much power in our lives and we don't even know about it. It really helped me to cope with my own grief and not to talk over and over again. I had a therapist as well, but for me it didn't really work. Like, as we said before, like living everything over and over again, it didn't really help me to fix these things. For me, it was meditation, exercise, walking, biking. It really helped me to kind of heal my body and soul after all the grief I went through.
Yeah. Do you find the more you do this or the more you realize this stuff that when the chaos starts to come up that you recognize it sooner?
Absolutely. You totally feel it. And then you step back and it's like, okay, let's sit down, breathe, and think this through before you say anything to anyone and before you hurt anyone. Because I think that's like, the thing to do is like count till 10. And it really works. Like count till 10 before you say anything to anyone, before you're hurting anyone. And
Yeah.
I think we've all been there. So yeah.
So, what is some of the advice you'd give to people? Because a lot of times people just feel like when you really get caught up in chaos and all that, you just feel like you don't have like even a few minutes or that time to
Yes.
take. Because, yeah, what would your advice be to
It's
somebody?
it's really hard. It's really hard to kind of, okay, now just let's have a 30 minutes silent thinking at home and I'll be fine. I think whatever we do, let's take the small step approach. Like start with small. Like whatever you do, start with small. Like start with 5 minutes. I mean, it's doable. Like start to just breathe, calm down, and do kind of 5 minutes of thinking. You can even put it a timer in your phone, and okay, this is my 5 minute when I'm doing that, and then you can extend to 10 minutes, because if you take this small step approach, your body and your mind getting used to it, getting used to the calm. But like from chaos to calm, from one moment to another, that wouldn't help. I mean, we just can't do that. We are not wired like that. So I think it's really important to take the small steps approach and be patient with yourself. Like, Don't try to fix yourself, just be patient. Be patient, sit with your pain, sit with your grief, sit with your problem for a while. And once you do that, and once you do that consistently, whatever but you're doing it consistently, will definitely help you to fix a couple of things in your life, even if it takes a lot of time. It's not a quick fix. It takes time, and it takes your energy and effort to do that consistently, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, it definitely takes time, because I know I used to do that and it'd be like, oh, I should be doing this. No, and you have all these things going. And I don't know about you, but I think for me, one of the things that helped me doing that and getting to that was creating boundaries.
Yes.
Creating those boundaries and not worried about what everybody else thinks about what I'm doing or their judgment. You have to be good, I think, with what you're doing. Are there specific boundaries that you set for yourself doing that?
Yeah, learning to say no to people. Like I was very big on people pleasing, like I think in all my life. And then when I decided, like, no, I don't need that, like 2 more meetings that day, or I would love to network with everyone, but I can do that. I don't need to do that, because then I burn out again, and that's not a funny place to be. So just learning to say no to many things in our life, even to our spouse, to our kids, to to coworkers, to clients, like to everyone basically, because the more no's you give to people, yeah, you will have a happier and more relaxed life. But it's hard, because you don't want to hurt anyone, because you want to be always there for them. But it's important to just learn that 2-letter word, no.
Yeah, that's why I told people, I was like, no is a complete sentence. You don't owe them an
Yeah,
explanation. It's just no. Not the right time. It's just no.
exactly.
Yeah, and it can be tough, and you can do it without hurting, people's
Yeah.
feelings and stuff. But when people get used to you being that way, and that's you are, it's kind of like almost like expected. But it's like, yeah, no. But I say, the more you can say no to someone else, the more you can say yes to yourself.
Exactly, very well
Right.
said.
And we all know self-care is important, and it's not selfish. So
Right.
that's the other idea people think they have, is that they're being selfish if they do that. But like you said, you can only go so long before you burn out, you
Yeah,
get tired, and you're getting that way because you don't start saying no to people.
exactly, so true.
Yeah. So what else did you, I mean, are you still doing your art, your collages?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm working on it. I'm working on a big collage right now, so I'm really excited about that. It will take ages until I finish it, but then again, I do it every evening. I try to do it every evening, and it's just so soothing. And what I realize, I sleep so much better after I'm working on my collage during the evening. So yes, it has a very magical power for sure.
So there's another reason, right? You're getting better sleep.
Exactly. Like everything, like it helps to calm your mind again, and it gives you just so much peace and quiet and better sleep. Because as I was reading in different places, like no TV, no social media, no phones, nothing, like 30 minutes before bed or an hour before bed. I'm not doing that all the time, but I'm trying my best. So maybe just reading or working on collages, it really helps to quiet your mind down before
Yeah.
sleep.
What are some of the amazing things you've seen happen with your clients that have done the silent thinking?
It was really interesting, because what I got some great testimonials from them, and I was just surprised, like how powerful silence can be. Because usually my sessions are 30-minute long, and during that time they felt kind of an immediate shift in their energy. We did a group session with a couple of people, and it was really interesting to see that just people somehow just they became so relaxed, like from one moment to another. And there was this immediate positive shift in their energy, like you could even, like, it was palpable, you could even touch it, like it was amazing. And I totally felt it with them when I am sitting with them. So it was pretty amazing, and I never ever experienced anything like that before. So I I didn't know that when I came up with the idea with the silent thinking session, that it can be so powerful and helping people to relax and to collect their thoughts.
Nice. So when you're doing this, are they always in groups, or do you do groups and one-on-one or one-to-one?
Both like groups and one-on-one as well, both of them. So it's their choice. But I had a group of people that I'm basically networking, and they asked me to do a quiet silent thinking session for them, and that was a group session. But I had one-on-one sessions as well, and it was really powerful too. So, and I
Yeah,
really
I would think
enjoy
there could
that.
be benefits to both, right? Because
Yeah,
depending on your type of personality, or depending on the group, but you can actually pick up on all of the energy
yeah,
from the group. But then there's
exactly.
others that maybe don't want to do it
Yeah.
with someone else there.
I agree. I agree. I mean, it really depends on the group energy, and yeah. So one-on-one is as efficient as the group one for sure, and it really depends on your personality type, extrovert, introvert. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Or if it's just something that they want to be able to talk about with somebody that they don't want the whole world the whole
exactly.
world out there to
Yeah.
know.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. Is your website, Noemi, is that the best place for them to connect with you or to find out more about your silent thinking sessions?
Yes, they can visit my website, noemiberes.com, and they can join my waitlist. So they will get informed whenever I have available spots. And also, I'm also always on LinkedIn. So social media, guilty as charged. And so you can reach me there, like by typing my name in Noemi Beres. And like I'm an entrepreneur, I am run a podcast booking agency, but I'm also holding these quiet spaces, silent spaces for people.
I would imagine holding the quiet spaces for other people, does that help you as well at the same time?
Yes, I mean that's the best thing about it. Like
Yeah.
I can really relax together with them and kind of share my energy. I was told by many people, which was really interesting to me because I never experienced that. Like I never knew that about myself, that that you have a really quiet like energy and positive energy when I'm with you. And I got that from strangers that I just got on a call and after podcast interviews from the host. So it was really interesting. And then got me thinking, is like if I have that kind of energy and if I can help myself, I can help other people too. And for me, it's just helping just one single person. It's already a win. Like if it's whether it's art therapy, whether it's silent thinking session, I think it's so powerful when you can just help people. I'm a go giver by heart, and so for me, just giving to people. It's so important because I know everything comes back to me tenfold, and it's not about like taking everything from other people, but really giving from your heart.
Yeah, you and I have a lot of similarities there, and
Yes.
I know what you feel because doing the show, you talk to everybody and you talk to people global, across the world, which other people look at you like, what? I'm like, I got to talk to Netherlands right now. It's like, I can talk through WhatsApp or whatever. I can talk to anybody, anywhere. But when you start meeting with people that you've never met before in your life, and they start having those same things about loving your energy or the positive
Yeah.
energy and stuff, it's just like, yeah, it really kind of makes you stop and think,
Yeah.
because that's not something I ever really thought about or put much thought into. And then, okay, now I've got one on this island over there here saying that, and then one in this country. And it's like, and when they start saying almost the same thing, and it's like, okay, it just really makes you think.
Yeah, it does. It does. Absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of people may not, believe that, but the whole world is vibration, frequency,
It's all
and
about that.
yep, yep, all tuned into that. So, yeah. So, with your podcast connections, you want to tell everybody a little bit about that? What the work you do with that?
Yes, we help entrepreneurs, business owners to get on quality podcast shows and help them to share their knowledge and share their stories. That's what we basically do in in a nutshell. It's basically a PR agency, but solely focusing on podcast guesting experience.
Yeah, and it's a good connection to have, right? Because people that you know so many different people and so many different shows. What kind of guests or people that they're looking for? So it's kind of like you're a whole Rolodex between TV shows and podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's like we talked about energy, and it's all about energy again. Like if you really know well the host, and if you really know well your client, the guest, I mean, you can just make the perfect match, but you really have to put time, energy, and effort into that to get to know them, and then those perfect matches can, can come alive.
Yeah, because not everybody's a good fit.
No, no, they're not.
No, we're not all a mix, and we're not meant to be. I always think it's, everybody just thinks, oh, we can do this. No, not if we're not a good fit. It has to be, to me, they have to kind of resonate or be within that same film or same area. There's other people that
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's great what they do. It's just not a fit for me.
Absolutely. Oh, and I can just give you another, just a little venture of mine that I
Absolutely.
didn't share with your audience. It just came to my mind before I finished. We talked about it actually before we started going live. And it was that I started actually a podcast, which is not your usual podcast, but it's basically solo episodes. It's an ASMR style reading podcast, and I'm reading books from my friends, from other authors that I got permission from, so they are not like copyright protected, but I got the permission, and that's what I'm doing. And it really brings me joy to share all these stories with the audience, and it also helps, again, people with anxiety, with stress, with trauma, with PTSD, to fall asleep, to sleep better, to relax, just to listening to basically stories. But these are stories that you won't find them online, but got them from my friends. So it's special in a way.
Nice. What does ASMR stand for?
Oh my gosh, I have a little cheat sheet here. Plus, I'm not a native speaker, so it's ASMR is autonomous sensory meridian response. So it's basically it helps you to relax, unwind by a soothing voice or a sound that people make. There are different types of ASMR style podcasts.
Mhm.
Sometimes, like you can hear them, like people like squishing a little like ball into a microphone, and you can hear that really soothing voice. But
Right.
I noticed that, like, it's coming from my own story, that I had trouble with sleeping during my grief anxiety period, and, like, 3 a.m. usual time, you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. So I started to listen to these audio podcasts. Basically, they were ASMR style reading podcasts, and I came up with the idea, why am I not doing that? And because I don't really have time to do interviews, and I know, like, organizing interviews takes a lot of time and effort. Like, I know a lot of podcast hosts like you and doing an amazing job, but it's a lot of work. So I came up with the idea that I always loved reading stories to my son while he was little. Now he's not interested listening to my stories. So now I have YouTube and my friends' books that I can read to people to relax, unwind, and just fall asleep easier.
Nice. So you have it on a YouTube channel?
Yes, it's Noemi Beres. Yeah,
Okay.
it's called that's my YouTube channel, and it's the Silent Thinking podcast. Basically, it's just very connected to the brand. So
Well, that's nice though, because you're actually taking the time to read them. I know a lot of people that have done that have just let AI do it, and some of them they can get close to their voice, but you can always tell when they're
yeah,
doing
it's
it
not the
because
same.
instead of ready, it says ready, and the word, it's like, okay, that's AI, because when they don't pronounce things right, or
Yeah,
it goes and it's like, yep, that would be AI
I
doing
might
that.
make mistakes too because I'm not a native speaker. But
Well, yeah, but you can tell the difference than when
yeah,
something is just
totally.
going
Yeah,
through. But
yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. No, it's my voice. It's me. It's not edited. I just read it like I have weekly episodes, and I'm going to record the next one like on Tuesday, Wednesday every week. So yeah, I'm trying to be consistent with it.
And I'm the same with you there. I always tell people, I'm like, you know what? I'm not editing. I'm not editing this. It's natural. It's authentic. That's
Yeah,
it. We all trip over our words or stumble or technical difficulties, happen,
yeah,
which, hey, it was Monday,
exactly.
right? So, Noemi, we got a few minutes left. We got about 5 minutes left. Do you want the audience to take away from today?
For me, it's important to appreciate the power of silence in our lives, and just realize like how powerful it is just to be present, just to have someone with us, just to sit with us. And even if you ask, someone, a friend, family member who can help you with that, that's really powerful. And you don't have to struggle. You don't have to be alone with everything, with all your problems. And just have a silent partner why you are thinking. I think it's really important. And whatever you're doing, just take the small steps approach. Just be patient with yourself, because just be consistent, but be patient with yourself. I think that's really important.
Yeah, being patient, give yourself grace,
Yes,
because
that
we're always our worst.
exactly.
We're always our worst critic.
Yeah, yeah, true.
But well, I want to thank you for taking the time to come back and share that. I love that new venture that you're on and your new podcast. So you always got something going on. It's amazing. It's like you got all these things, but yet you are still finding that time to have that stillness and the calm so that you don't get caught up in all the chaos. So I love
Yeah, I
that.
was kind of working on this for some time, and I was trying to find kind of my purpose in life, like how I can help people. And when, the thought hit me about the silent thinking session, I was like, okay, that's it. That's what I was looking for. So that kind of brings me joy.
Well, and I think it's a perfect time because, everything seems to get a little crazier and
Yes.
chaotic every now and then. So I think we're definitely in that time. And I think we could all cultivate some stillness of our own would be wonderful. So, yeah. Well, thank you, Noemi, so much for joining us today. Everybody, if you want to know more about create the silent thinking sessions, absolutely reach out to Noemi. As you can tell, she's very easy to talk to. And yeah, she has a lot of great things going on. Or even if you want to get connected for podcasting, talk to Noemi. She's got them all.
Multifunctional.
Yep. So thank you everybody for joining us. I hope you have a very mindful Monday and we will see you all next week.